It's Nathan, and oh my goodness, I have missed you guys. I've missed making videos to you guys. I've had so much going on. I've had bank staff, house hunting, my laptop died and I had to try and retrieve so much information. A lot of it I didn't get, including this video. I had to get another one. Sorry, I'm making another one right now for you guys. Oh, it's been so busy. Life has been chaotic, but as you can see, it's beautiful. It's very beautiful. The sun is setting. It's actually a warm winter's day. Just cracker. It's good to have a laptop. The video content is gonna just skyrocket now that I have one. The video quality is also going to improve because this has got some really great bells and whistles on it. Like, I was fiddling around with it earlier. Fucking fantastic. But you're not here to listen to me ramble about my computer. You're here to listen to me ramble about books, and that's what I'm gonna do with this bad boy. Yeah. Witchmark. Alright, so first of all, I loved it. I love this book. Often when we have a thin book, you can see it's thin. Often when we have a thin book, I often say I wanted more because I wanted to be greedy or because I didn't feel there was enough. This time, I don't. And it's not a bad thing either. In fact, it's a very good thing. I was satisfied. This was a very thin book, very short story, an incredibly easy read, which is the part that I like the most about it. And I'm not at all disappointed in its size. I loved it. I thought this was the perfect length. I don't think it was missing anything. It was just a really nice little book. Now, so the book is set in a almost post-World War II era kind of landscape, except it is, of course, a magical fantasy landscape. But we do have that 1940s, 1950s era of technology where we're just beginning to get into things like, you know, the automobiles are not for everybody except for the elite. They don't have electricity, they have ether. So they have ether-powered telephones and or communication phones and things like that. I loved everything about this book because of how subtle it was. Everything written in this book is not a page or a chapter of just description. We have this mental image of what a period piece looks like in, 1920s to 1940s England. We already have this mental image in our brain, and it manipulates that. It doesn't have to chew on it. It doesn't have to try and feed it to you. It doesn't go overboard. It just sits there very nicely with all the nice minor details, all the things that are missing, if that makes sense. All the technologies, all the common class things that are missing. And I really like that. So it's a nice, easy setting to just breeze through, and it's really good. Anyway, I'm going to keep waffling, so we'll go on to the next section. We follow a character called Miles. Now, Miles does have magic, and the thing about magic in this world is it is kept secret from the vast majority of the population. Now, this isn't because it's like a secret society. Well, it is a secret society, but not in the people can't know. It's more of the fact that people do know magic exists, but they've been influenced to hear that it's bad. Those who are found to have magic are cast as witches, and witches are sent to an asylum. An asylum where they are judged and prosecuted and everything else, but essentially once they're put into a bag and whisked off, that's the last anyone ever sees of them. So the only people who get away with having magic are the mages. Now, the witches and the mages are the exact same thing, only the mages have money, essentially. They are at the top of the proverbial food chain. They are at the top of society, and they have earned their place by being a key structure in the government, in the infrastructure of their entire culture. And the idea, they call themselves the Invisibles, and I love this because it's just basically the only people they answer to are themselves and their queen. That's it. They don't take shit from the government. In fact, most of them actually have positions in the government, which just adds to that whole, like, almost Illuminati-esque sort of feel, which is really cool. Miles actually comes from one of these families, but Miles is known as a secondary. Now, a primary is one who has a particular level of magic, or in the case of this book, a particular skill, which is to be able to manipulate the weather. They call them storm callers. This is the key to their power. The storm callers manipulate the weather so that the country has continuous prosperity in their agriculture, stops flooding, stops like mass storms. Like you look at certain places around the world that constantly get hit with tornadoes and typhoons and hurricanes. They stop all that. There's no natural disaster. They make sure of it. They are seen as primaries. Secondaries are people like Miles who have lesser magic and just basically paired or even like magically bonded to their primary to be used as a battery. That's it. And Miles didn't want that. He didn't want to be used as a battery or a slave. And so he runs away, fakes his own death, joins the army. Then once he's done with the army, comes back and works as a doctor. And that's where our story begins. Our story begins as Miles pretending to be somebody else, or actually under his new name, Miles. And he's trying to help people coming back from the war suffering from PTSD. That's a big setup, but it's a really good setup because it makes the book. It really does, because we see Miles has basically a type of magic, a healing magic, a medical magic. He can manipulate the energies and the physiology of people to help them and heal them. Now, there are two major things that are happening within the story. That is, Miles is treating soldiers that have come back from a war who are suffering from PTSD, but this isn't a normal PTSD. This is like a magical PTSD. At first he thinks it's a virus, but then realizes it's not. There's something much more unnatural about it. And it's causing people to essentially become like schizophrenic and then go on a rampage and just kill their families and like kill themselves. And it's nuts. It's really, really nuts. But the whole real adventure kicks off when a man is brought in to Miles' hospital, and as he's dying, he says, "I've been poisoned, I've been murdered because of what I know." And he gives him this cryptic clue, and that's where this whole adventure begins. Now, we do have other characters throughout this book, but I don't need to get into it. I don't need to tell you the plot of the whole book chapter by chapter, but essentially Miles teams up with another person called Tristan, and Tristan is another magical being like Miles, and it's really nice. Like, their relationship actually goes from just a general acquaintanceship to quite a serious flirtation and intimacy. And I've said before on the channel, I hate insta-love. This is not insta-love. It kind of is, but it kind of isn't. The scope of the book isn't very long. I think it's over several weeks, if to several months maybe. Not a long time at all. But I like their relationship. I like the fact that it starts off very casual and then flirtatious, and then it becomes slowly more intimate as the mystery becomes more and more involved, and as Miles is discovered by his family that he's alive, and he's trying to get roped back in and manipulated and basically bound to be a slave to his sister, who is a primary, and he's trying to discover who killed this man. He's trying to discover what's happening with the soldiers. He's trying to work his way through a very complex situation or relationship with Tristan for the simple fact of the time. Now, it's not that homosexuality is as frowned upon as it was in our real world back in them days, but it's also not totally accepted. Like, it's not it's not a commonality, if that makes sense. So it's very very hit and miss, if that makes sense, if anyone understands that reference. The book does touch on some nice little areas. It does touch on some really nice little themes. We've got, we've got the unwanted kind of relationship with Tristan, or how society sees it, that unwanted kind of relationship. We have a very serious family drama when it comes to his relationship with his sister, who tries to come back into his life, his father, who is a manipulative piece of shit, and the two of them manipulating Miles, some of it by accident, some of it on purpose. The fact that like Miles is just, they write Miles up so perfectly as a doctor, because very commonly doctors are shit at taking care of themselves, and that's written in there as well, just very subtly. And I use that word, last time I made this video I used that word a lot, subtly, because that's a lot of the whole book. Subtle descriptions, subtle lack of descriptions, subtle themes, or subtle nudges and pulling of the story and of the characters. And we see that Miles is a good doctor because he's running himself into the dirt with running around trying to find answers for this murdered man, trying to find answers to this virus that is causing so much PTSD in fellow soldiers, people he served with, people who he knows what they did and what they saw and what they went through. The whole, there's like a bit of a government conspiracy cover-up sort of feel to this as well, and that's done really nicely as well. No one's going out and saying, hey, have you heard of the secret Illuminati, and have you heard of these, quasi, branches of the government that have full autonomy. No one's throwing all that crap out there trying to make everything sinister. They're just following clues, and then when they get to a certain point, someone chases them, or suddenly information just ends, or suddenly they're just cut off from people or information, the whole shebang. Is that sun getting annoying? Where was I? Yes. The conspiracy cover-up feel is done very well, very naturally. That whole, they're chasing clues, and then suddenly a lot of doors are being slammed in their face. A lot of people aren't talking. A lot of people are disappearing, or people are changing their mind, or details are missing. Things keep changing as the closer and closer they get to what they think is an answer. And like most real conspiracies, all you find is more questions. So it was really, really good. We do find out what happens in the end, though. You're not left hanging. This is a standalone book, which I love. I'll quickly talk about the magic system. The magic system is not based on... It's a soft magic system. It's not based on any criteria or skills. People just have an innate talent, I suppose, and they then learn to harness that talent, or they learn to hone that skill. And Sir Tristan, who is Miles' companion, he's very advanced at magic. He is very advanced and has a very deep understanding of magic, and he teaches Miles a lot of tricks and a lot of kind of understanding about what's actually really wrong with our society, about the fact that witches and mages are essentially the same thing, only it depends on your class, really, that stops you from one being the other. And it's really, really crazy. Like, the elitism of it is just very mind-blowing, even in this kind of setting. It just sort of like shocks you to how real that feels, even today in our real world. The magic is, when Tristan is teaching Miles, the magic is done through a strength of will, a strength of understanding. It is the visualization and the manipulation of what you can do, what you can understand. So at one point, Tristan gets Miles to just stare into a mirror, and for after a while it's just like nothing's happening, but over time his eyes just randomly refocus and he goes, holy shit, and he goes, I see it, I can see auras. Now I understand what people are talking about when they say you are Witchmark, because people who carry an essence of magic that is not their own, that belongs to someone else, which does happen to Miles, it kind of hangs in their aura. It's kind of like stuck to them in their aura, like a little star floating in their constant orbit. And that is the Witchmark. And the reason they find that is because of the aura vision. He was like, oh my god, after all these years, I had no idea that's how they caught people, you know? And then once he sort of turned it on, he couldn't turn it off, and he had to learn how to turn it off. And it was more just that there was no trick to it then. Once his eyes had almost focused on the aura, he then had to learn to unfocus his eyes from the aura. And we see that in other aspects too, when he then uses that vision to heal someone. He already knew how to do it. He already knew how to mentally map through someone's body, and it was the same process. It was just that idea of envisionment and that strength of will. And I like strength of will magic systems, I really do, because they're so flexible and ingenious, and then people's skill level isn't based on, the criteria and rule set of how the magic works. It's based on the fact that the individual themselves is just genuinely more mindful, more powerful, more intuitive, I guess, to themselves. I really like soft magic systems. I like strength of will magic systems. They're really cool. I didn't have really much to critique about this book. Even the last time I made this video, I didn't have any real negatives. I can't think of them off the top of my head now. I don't know. I just really liked it. It was just really, really good. Try and block my face. It was really, really good. I'm gonna keep saying it. It was subtle. Everything about it was subtle. The world building was subtle and let your imagination go. The romance was subtle, so it didn't feel like it was really being shoved in your face. Even like the type of relationship they have, its place in society wasn't really touched on. Like, it wasn't trying to be political about it or really woke about it. Yeah, I really liked this book. A lot of it was just very genuinely lovely. That's probably the word of the day for this book is lovely. Final part of the video is the recommendation part. Who and why I would recommend this book to certain people and certain book lovers. If you enjoy a very light, easygoing fantasy, absolutely. If you like a little bit of queer romance, absolutely. If you are a friend, if you're a fan of period pieces and period dramas, absolutely. You'll love this. Even if you're not super into fantasy, this is not that far away from our reality that I don't think you wouldn't enjoy it. I actually might recommend this to my mum. She loves period dramas. If you like a little bit of murder mystery, a little bit of conspiracy, a little bit of rage against the government, you might like this book. Not that there's a whole lot of those themes in here, but there's enough of those themes along with everything else in the book that just make it very, very substantial. It's a very well-rounded book. It hits a lot of marks, hits a lot of areas. You just want a really nice, easy read, a well-written read, pick this book up. you want that, you know, you want a little bit of drama and suspense, pick this book up, because there is literally so many different areas of suspense, from like the family drama, the outcast drama, the war, the veterans coming home with PTSD, the murder. Like, they're all so, there's like so many things, but they're split up so well. You know, it's not overwhelming on one section or another. It's just almost nicely evenly split. The book is not rushed. The book is not paced. The book is not rushed. The book doesn't have poor pacing. When we go through the day-to-day, or we even skip a couple days, or whatever else happens, nothing feels like we're trying to power through the storyline. Nothing feels like we're trying to rush the timeline. When you read it and you go through his day, and at the end of his day, and he's exhausted and he's fucked and he's been beaten up, or he's run away from people, or he's been chasing leads with Tristan, and they end up at Tristan's place and they have a nice dinner, and then he's just knackered, or he's got to race across town really early in the morning to get back to the hospital where he works. Like, you feel it all evenly spaced out. You don't feel like a day, like 9 chapters were for a single day and it was all crushed together, and then 2 chapters were for a week and a half and nothing fucking happened. Like, it's just well paced, well timed, well written. I cannot rave about this book enough, clearly. I love it. I love it. I've never heard of this author, but I'm going to buy more of their books. I'll tell you that right now. I'm going to buy a lot more of their books. Alright guys, it's great to be back. Oh, it's so good to do a video. I can't wait to get this online. I can't wait for you all to see it. It's going to be fantastic. My next one is actually under my microphone, under my camera. It's going to be The Mask and Mirrors. And believe me, I am so hyped to do this one. I really am. This was a fucking amazing book. It was great. I've had incredible reading this last couple of months. But yeah, that's coming. Video on law by Alexandra Bracken for my book club is coming. So much stuff is coming. I'm finally getting back into it. Guys, I'll see you later. Oh, I've missed you so much. Till the next one.